Lincoln Radio. You're listening to KZUM Lincoln and KZUM-HD, your community radio station.
What's your music collection like? Maybe it takes up entire walls in your home, or maybe all of the files fit nicely in your pocket. Maybe you plug an MP3 player into your car speakers, or maybe you're into 180-gram vinyl through a high-end system. Well, if you've ever been curious about what exactly you're hearing, why it sounds that way, and how you can improve it, check out KZUM Presents This is the Art of Listening, Part 2. Audio expert Brent Reel will demonstrate how audio quality has changed as technology has improved and show you how to most effectively set up your room for the best listening experience. So if music matters to you, please join us. KZUM presents This is the Art of Listening. Part 2 on Friday, September 13th, 7 p.m. at the historic Ferguson House, 16th and H Streets. Find out more at kzum.org.
Ranger Station.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting in the forest. 1 second, I'm having a smoke. Next thing I know, I'm face-to-face with Smokey Bear. Wow. And he told me it only takes one spark to start a wildfire.
Did you know 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans?
I had no idea.
That's why Smokey's famous and you're not. If you see someone in danger of starting a wildfire, step in and make a difference. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at smokeybear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
The Melting Pot brings you the best protest music and music on political themes every Tuesday morning from 8 to 10 a.m. I'm Molly Pitcher, and the only rules are that it has to be good for your political conscience and good to listen to. Come help me stir the pot on the Melting Pot Tuesday mornings from 8 to 10 here on KZUM.
Good morning and welcome to Lavender Hill. And what was that music, Phil?
That was Big Bad Gina off of their Amazon Warrior Priestess, one of the, with Mo Betta. And they are a lesbian group out of the KC area. So thought we'd start out with something, moderately local for music for us there. And actually, that's kind of appropriate because you had something from Missouri. Do we want to dive into that right away?
We might as well.
Yeah, it looks like that was the first thing you had up on your screen, at least from my angle.
A man by the name of David Lee Mangum recently told police he had sex with at least 300 people. Well, at least 300 sexual encounters in the past 10 years.
And why is this noteworthy?
He's HIV positive, and so under Missouri law, knowingly exposing someone to HIV without their consent is a felony. 15 years of incarceration, and if you actually do infect someone, it becomes a life term. So he's up to somewhere around 300 such
potential.
Now, what's interesting about this, and this is something because, we talked about, this happened last year in Iowa. Mm-hmm. What's interesting about this is you're criminalizing someone having a disease, but it's the only disease that's so criminalized. I mean, you can knowingly give someone the flu, a cold,
the clap,
syphilis, gonorrhea, herpes, chlamydia.
Okay, you don't need to name all of them.
Et cetera, et cetera. But none of those, and some of them, in some cases, those are life-threatening illnesses. I mean, the same with...
Especially if they go untreated. I mean, even the flu left untreated can potentially be life-threatening.
Yeah. Or Hep C, for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, only HIV is so criminalized. So it's a little odd, but by the same token, yes, it's a potentially fatal illness, but then so is Hep C, etc. So it's just one of those things. Why? And speaking of HIV, the HIV vaccine has aced its first trial. This is the Canadian version. Mm-hmm. It has aced its first human trials. So SAV-001, as it's called, is based on using a genetically modified dead version of the virus. So it's similar, basically, to how you develop an immunity when you get a flu shot. So, but at least, it's potentially promising. Clinical trials will begin here in the U.S. Clinical trials began in the U.S. in March of 2012, and half the target group were given a placebo, half were given the SAV-001, no adverse effects were found in the group given the vaccine. Now the question, of course, becomes how many of them were exposed and how many did or did not develop the virus? Or haven't they tested that aspect of it yet?
I'm not entirely sure. I haven't done research on that.
Yeah, I mean, this article isn't being clear on that either. So I'm just kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
So the dead virus doesn't infect people. That's good. That's an important first step, because the last time they tried this, they had to stop the trial because the inactive form was not.
Yeah, it's quote unquote inactive, but it wasn't dead.
Yeah. So, ow. All right, do you have something?
I have something that could be construed as humorous, which might be a good thing after that story.
Okay.
Or after those two stories. Could be construed as humorous, not to mention is moderately local because it has to do with a particular church down in Kansas, the Westboro Baptist Church. And they're...
What have they done this time?
Well, no, it's their relatively new neighbors across the street, the Equality House.
Okay.
During the month of October, at some point during October, the Gay History Month, the Equality House is hosting a drag show in their yard, which means that whether the Westboro Baptist Church likes it or not, they're participating as well. They're in for a big surprise. The article that I have here says off of Huffington Post. Planting Peace, which is an organization associated with the Equality House, is an anti-hate nonprofit organization championed for equal rights, and it is planning to hold a drag show at the Equality House. This is October 26th, so more than a month away. And they're going to march around the Westboro Baptist Church in Topeka in full-face drag. And, of course, this is going to hit TV, news, media. So, yes. The not-so-good Reverend Phelps and his family will be probably not very happy, and they'll probably be out there with their protesting signs and all that we've all gotten very, very tired of. But I just found it kind of humorous that, yes, the Westboro Baptist Church is getting dragged, pun intended there, into a show with the Equality House.
Yeah, they're not going to be happy about that.
No, not at all, not at all. But... yeah, you can go to the Huffington Post. This was an article posted just a few days ago on the 6th, and read the whole thing, including some quotes from people involved. And, yeah, just looks kind of like a little bit of fun there. Almost makes me want to go down and see what happens in Topeka. But I'm going to be otherwise occupied, I believe, that weekend.
Aw, too bad.
Now, here's a question for you, Corwin. Are you familiar with the swimmer Diana Nyad?
You mean the elderly lesbian swimmer who made a record-breaking cross, I believe?
She swam from Cuba to Florida.
Yeah.
Which is a rather long swim, no matter what your age, but she is... what is she? She's in her 60s, I believe.
60s or 70s?
Yeah, 60s. Late 60s, early 70s, somewhere around in there. Made a 110-mile swim. She's 64.
64.
There we go. 60s. Yes, which, the impressive part is that she made that long of a swim at the age of 64. So people are like, and this is coming from all different media sources, people are like, so why is it so important that she's gay, that she's openly lesbian? It's important, according to one opinion article from The Advocate, because people need to realize that there are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, etc. people, SOGI, who are accomplishing feats. And if it's not said that they are gay, then people are just going to assume they're straight, and they are shoved into the, and here's a phrase you like or a word you like, heteronormative category where nobody really knows what's going on.
Closeted again.
Forced into when it's left out. People were asking, okay, why is it so important that she's gay? If she were black, would we be saying black swimmer goes from Cuba to Florida?
Yes.
Well, not today. We wouldn't.
I think so. In a lot of cases, yes, we would.
No, not really. Not. Athletics is athletics. We don't make a big deal out of gay football. We make a big deal out of gay football players. We don't make a big deal out of black football players. black basketball players, black baseball players, black golfers.
It depends on what's the notoriety of de jour. I mean, let's face it, if we are talking a black athlete who gets in trouble with the law, yeah, people are going to make a huge deal out of it, versus if it's a white athlete who gets in trouble with the law, maybe not so much. Of course, that depends on what the
and of course,
thing
the descriptor of white is left out anyways.
Yeah.
The descriptor of black generally is left out with positive news. You are right, it does get brought in sometimes with the negative news.
But speaking of such things, of sports, Tommy Morrison died this week at the age of 44.
And for those who may not be aware of who he
was.
Yes.
Tommy Morrison was an up-and-coming major boxing hopeful. He actually starred in one of the Rocky films. And unfortunately, his career was brought to a screeching halt when he was diagnosed HIV positive. And I mean, he was having a good career. In some 48 professional matches, he'd lost one and tied twice. But anyway, he was HIV positive. He was banned from the sport. And he spent all the time since then kind of in AIDS denialism territory, saying that he really wasn't HIV positive, that he was okay, so he wasn't seeking treatment. And, well, like I said, he died. Still, nearly 20 years essentially not treated by standard medical techniques for HIV. It's a pretty good survival rate.
Yeah.
Although, of course, most of the stuff that's going around the various gay news sites and blogospheres is he could have lived a lot longer if he had taken his drugs.
Not necessarily, because the drugs that were available when he was first diagnosed shortened the lifespan.
Yeah, so it's
may have made you asymptomatic, but shortened the lifespan.
Yeah, so it's one of those. Okay, like I said, basically 20 years after diagnosis, he died.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not actually have, and although I don't know if the cause of death was actually AIDS related, that waits the coroner's report.
Yeah. A very good friend of mine a number of years ago passed away. He had been diagnosed in like 1982 with GRID, which is what AIDS was called early on, gay-related immunodeficiency or immune disease. And, you know, he was... At the time of his death, he had been the United States' longest living person with full-blown AIDS, and he was asymptomatic. It was cancer that took him. It had nothing to do with the AIDS or HIV. It was cancer that took him. So who knows?
Yeah, and I met a guy in 1996. 1995, who had just a couple of weeks before had lost his lover to AIDS. He got the diagnosis, and 2 weeks later was dead.
Mm-hmm. It can be that quick sometimes.
And he, the surviving partner, was still HIV negative, even though they hadn't been using protection for the decade of their relationship. It's a complicated disease. And speaking of complicated, Texas.
Yes. Well, Austin. Or not,
well, there's more than just Austin.
Well,
there's another
actually,
Texas relation.
San Antonio, I was thinking about, not Austin. San Antonio. But where are you going first?
No, let's go the good part of San Antonio.
Yeah, San Antonio. We talked about it. We've talked about it several times over the last year, I believe. San Antonio, who that city's had a little bit of fun when it comes to a certain councilwoman saying certain things that she thought were private, but, well, okay, you're an elected official, you're having a meeting in your office, nothing's private. Anyways, they did successfully pass their protection law, which includes LGBT citizens. Their anti-discrimination policy, and I believe that goes as far as to include public accommodations, meaning restaurants, hotels, et cetera, not just employment, housing, and those things that are desperately needed in many areas. to be included in anti-discrimination laws. So congratulations to everyone in San Antonio. We got the word from our friend Chris, who I read a statement from her a couple of weeks ago, actually, in regards to the councilwoman there. She sent me the word as soon as she got the information. So yay for San Antonio.
Yeah, actually, there's another little bit of this that's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
There was also, at the same time they were voting on the LGBT non-discrimination ordinance, they were voting on a veterans non-discrimination ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much everybody who voted yes on the LGBT one voted yes on the veterans one. And the people who voted no voted no.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just one of those things. Oh, and another interesting aspect of this, I found an interesting little transgender site called Transgriot.
Mm-hmm.
They refer to the TBLG human rights.
Okay.
So it's put the trans and the bi first, the often forgotten parts of the initial four.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those little things. And so San Antonio is the largest city in Texas to have such protections.
Thus far.
Unfortunately, Texas, the state, did something a little boneheaded.
Mm.
The state government has told the Texas military forces, that is to say, the Texas National Guard and other such troops, that they are not to comply with the Department of Defense's order as relates to same-sex spouses of members of the military.
So once again, the great state of Texas is pushing basically for we're not Americans.
Yeah.
Because we're going to defy a directive from our military leadership.
Yeah. So
which is fine in some circumstances.
So this is so it's the state militias
Mm-hmm.
are being told to ignore their bosses
Mm-hmm.
because that's of course it is in one sense it's I suppose a legitimate invocation of states' rights,
Mm-hmm.
but it's one that's going to hit the courts.
Well, yeah. The decision from SCOTUS regarding Section 3 of DOMA is still going to be hotly debated state by state and maybe even wind up back before the Supreme Court on different levels, not necessarily Section 3, but the rest of DOMA and the individual state laws like Nebraska's, which you've all know, if you've been listening for any length of time, you know my opinion on that one. I'm not going to voice it again.
Yep.
And at least until we have somebody who can talk to it.
But, there is one interesting aspect of this. Since it is the military that's being ordered to defy the military, potentially, wouldn't that mean that every military official in Texas is committing a military crime?
There is the potential that the commanding officers who are enforcing this and directing their subordinates to enforce this could face minor military criminal charges. And I say minor because it's defying an order. It's not the same as going out and, bombing a place without orders.
Yeah, but still, it's, that's one of the important aspects of military life is obedience to the higher authority.
Mm-hmm. Of course, then again, and this will be kind of a segue into something after the bottom of the hour, some of those same military personnel could be facing some charges somewhat similar to Chelsea Manning.
Ooh, speaking of which.
And like I said, that would be a good segue for after the bottom of the hour. You have a piece of music lined up to take us to the bottom of the hour?
Yes. I do.
Yes, I kind of figured you did. Don't forget to hit that button up there. Yes, there we go. All right, so we will be back.
Broadcast of this program is made possible by the members of KZUM. Member support is critical to the success of the station. For information on membership, call 402-474-5086.
KZUM welcomes comments or suggestions from the listeners. If you would like to share your thoughts with us, call the station during business hours at 402-474-5086, visit kzum.org, or write to us at KZUM-FM at 3534 South 48th Street, Suite 6, 68506.
Here you are, Polly, my latest culinary creation.
These fish fillets look wonderful.
They are. I just used a small amount of a vegetable oil that's low in saturated fat.
Does that matter?
It does. Oils like canola, corn, and olive mainly contain monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats, and they can help reduce bad cholesterol in your blood and lower your risk of heart disease and stroke.
How do you know?
The American Heart Association told me at heart.org/facethefats.
Canola Info proudly supports the American Heart Association's Face the Fats campaign.
And coming up at noon this Sunday,
The Women's Show with Deb Anderson, her co-host Rachel West, and a wide variety of special guest programmers. Music by, for, and about women every Sunday here on KZUM, noon to 2.
Yep, great music, always.
Yes, and I understand today she's going to have a brief guest appearance with SAS.
Ooh?
Yes.
SAS?
Yes, SAS.
SAS.
SAS. SAS.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I was in studio with them recently on the Women's Show. They are a wonderful little group. And wonderful drummer, SAS is. Okay. Anywho, we had a little bit of a hint of a segue.
Yes.
So.
Just a small one involving a certain Private Manning.
Yes. You had something
Oh, I have plenty of some things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, some people are... What awaits Chelsea as she begins her sentence as the military's first openly trans woman prisoner?
Yes, gotta emphasize that part.
Yeah. Well, first off, she is going to be in a men's prison.
Mm-hmm. Fort Leavenworth.
Mm-hmm. So that could be potentially problematic. She will be at the U.S. Detentions Barracks at Fort Leavenworth specifically. Hopefully, the U.S. government, the military, will start providing her with hormone replacement therapy and the other things she needs to begin physically transitioning from male to female. There is a bit of legal precedence for that not to happen, and a lot of illegal precedence for that not to happen. Okay, in other words, some states, some prison institutions do not provide such transgender transitioning assistance. Others have been required by the courts to do so, but the prison has not followed through with the court orders. This being a federal prison, it could go either way. Then additionally, how the other inmates will react to this is a potentially dangerous situation for Private Manning.
Whether or not Private Manning is presenting herself as Chelsea or as she was known before, Bradley, because of the crimes that she was convicted of.
Yeah. Also, I mean, there's the whole problem of, Now, 57% of the people at this facility are there for sex-related offenses, including incest, pedophilia, and rape. So, in that regard, that is some of the danger for her right there.
Mm-hmm.
Others, there's no way of knowing how the guards and the staff will react.
Well, this past Tuesday, Private Manning's attorney, David Coombs, issued a request to President Obama for a pardon. The lawyer had indicated his intention as early as August 21st after the announcement of the 35-year sentence for Manning, and has also been joined through a separate statement by Amnesty International, which was sent to Obama, urging him to take a sympathetic stance towards Manning and grant clemency, saying the soldier's sentence was a blight on the U.S. human rights record, not to mention that they feel, Amnesty International, as well as many other people, organizations and individuals feel that clemency should be granted for time served and to protect whistleblowers, which is something that many legal stances have been made over the years to do, as well as provide accountability for the crimes that Manning exposed. Now, of course, with what's potentially going to be happening with U.S. involvement in Syria, there's going to be a whole lot of question about, well, should we be listening to the whistleblowers and giving them protection when we may be potentially going into another war situation? So,
yeah, and there's a whole other kettles of fish with that.
Mm-hmm.
But those are beyond the purview of this particular talk show.
Yeah.
We'll leave that up to Brian, Mary, and some of the others.
Yeah. Just wanted to mention one of my sources for information on Chelsea Manning is, of all things, Al Jazeera.
Mm-hmm.
It's their American feed for Al Jazeera. You know, it's interesting to get a Middle Eastern perspective sometimes on what goes on in the U.S.
Yes. But keeping with the theme with the military just a little bit longer, New Hampshire Senator Jean Shaheen has pledged action on her bill to get veterans benefits to same-sex spouses. So, you know, yeah, they can serve openly in the military, but what about afterwards? That's the next step, so to speak.
That is the next step.
So we're wishing her much luck in trying to convince a lot of people to back her.
Mm-hmm.
Although ultimately it should be just a simple Veterans Administration memorandum situation.
One would hope.
One would hope, but yeah, these things don't always usually end up that simply.
So, where to next?
How about Broadway? Okay. Some of you may know Broadway star Bobby Steger.
Familiar.
He just outed himself.
Oh?
Oh, yes. He was during an interview with Out.com, about his latest shows, where he's playing a gay man. He said that, it's one of the few times you have a gay man playing a gay man.
Which is true.
Yeah. Now, he has previously played other gay roles, but that was when he was still publicly closeted.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, in this one, it was just called Mothers and Son. He plays opposite Tyne Daly, plays a gay man and so he's using his own personal life experience as a gay man to inform his gay character, which makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Definitely
so let's hope that more and more people on Broadway and Hollywood and other entertainment venues start feeling more comfortable with saying, we're here, we're queer, get over it. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people who can't get over it.
Yeah, let's hear. Do you want to start or shall I start? Because we both got something somewhat similar.
Let's do yours, and then we'll get back to mine.
Perhaps many of our listeners will remember the bakery in Oregon that refused to make a wedding cake for a gay couple.
And closed.
And subsequently closed due to a lack of business.
Apparently, they couldn't get enough homophobes to come in and buy cakes.
Well, Christian Right radio host Kevin Swanson, who is a pastor, says it is appropriate to attend a same-sex wedding, but only as long as you hold up a sign calling for the happy couple to be put to death, i.e., holding up Leviticus 20:13, which the translation that he has is almost laughable.
Hmm?
Oh boy, is it almost laughable.
How so?
If a man sleeps with a woman as he sleeps, if a man sleeps with a man as he sleeps with a woman, the two of them have committed an abomination, and they shall both be put to death. That is nowhere near what it actually says.
No, it's much closer. What is much closer then?
What is much closer? Okay, in English, if a man lie with a man as he does with a woman, well, it is impossible for two men to lie together the way that a man and a woman would.
And there are some biblical scholars who hold that the correct sense of translation is that it's the type of bed that is important.
Yeah.
The bed in this case isn't just the place you normally sleep, but it's the bed that a woman slept on during her menstrual period, when she was supposed to be officially out and away from everyone else.
And in which, in either case, it would be a quote-unquote an abomination.
Which, of course, itself is a bad translation of the Hebrew phrase, which in English should be translated as ritually unclean.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you're ritually unclean, you can't go to the temple services. And it's complicated.
Yeah. On LGBTQNation.com, you can actually listen to what Kevin Swanson said. We're not going to play that for you because it's a bit annoying, but he went so far as to accuse gay, quote-unquote, fascists of attacking the Oregon Bakery, telling listeners that the Nazi Party had their birth at a homosexual bar in Berlin.
That bit of information has been so thoroughly debunked over and over and over again ad nauseum.
Exactly.
Although, oddly enough, it still keeps popping up. I recently came across a history text written by a Muslim, which repeated the same hate stuff. And I think I may have mentioned this. Possibly, at least somewhere, that the person who's most responsible for the continuation of that bit of slander, libel, actually, is the same person who pushed the Ugandans in their Kill the Gays bill.
And who would that person be?
I'm not gonna say his name. I can't remember it.
Okay, that's why you're not going to say his name. You can't remember.
I deliberately I forced myself to forget.
Selective memory.
Well, when it comes to names, I'm very bad at it. I've always been bad at remembering names, but nonetheless,
you have something somewhat related to.
Yes. This actually is an intersection of a pastor saying protest the gays and the military. It all kind of comes slamming together in this one.
So the
Southern
Christian Reich
Baptist
and the military conservatives.
The Southern Baptist Convention has officially directed its military chaplains to not perform, attend, or support weddings for gay and lesbian couples in the military. The North American Mission Board, which is an arm of the SBC, released the guidelines last week in response to the DoD's recent decision to recognize same-sex marriages and extend benefits to the spouses of gay service members. So the chaplains are also prohibited from offering any kind of relationship training or retreat on or off a military installation that would give the appearance of accepting the homosexual lifestyle or sexual wrongdoing. You know, the only thing I can really think of happening as a result of this, Phil, is all of these gay and lesbian Baptists are simply going to go to another denomination.
Well, remember, this is the Southern Baptist Convention. Not all Baptists are Southern Baptists.
So, we'll go from Southern Baptist to being another Baptist, or going Methodist or Presbyterian or whomever.
I think I might have to ask a question of a fellow programmer here. Her stepdaughter is a Southern Baptist minister and openly lesbian. So I will have to talk. I'm not going to say who the programmer is at this point, but
that would be her perspective on this.
Have to find out if she's going to be coming to visit Lincoln anytime soon, and see if we can't
Because, yes,
get
I know
around.
who he's talking about.
Yes. It would be a little difficult on Sunday because they would be at church, but maybe a advanced pre-record or something
A minister
like that.
at church on a Sunday. Who'd think?
Well, we've had ministers in the studio on Sunday while they would normally be at church.
It's a special thing.
Yes.
All right.
All right.
How about okay, since we're going off on this kind of stuff, what is the ex-gay agenda, Phil?
Well, before we get to the ex-gay agenda, I
Okay.
wanted to mention something more about gay marriage and
Okay.
all that.
Okay.
Wisconsin gay couples who get married in a state that recognizes same-sex marriage could face jail time when they go back home.
Why?
Well, it is illegal currently in the state of Wisconsin to, let's just put it this way. Under an arcane and seldom enforced marriage evasion law, Wisconsin same-sex couples who tie the knot in a marriage equality state, such as Iowa or Minnesota, could face 9 months in jail and a $10,000 fine when they return home. It is state statute 765.301A of the Wisconsin Code provides the penalty to any person residing and intending to continue to reside in the state who goes outside the state and their contracts of marriage prohibited or declared void under the laws of the state.
Okay.
So they would be violating a state statute by remaining Wisconsin citizens. Well, no offense to our friends who have recently or a long time ago joined us from Wisconsin, but you're welcome to move to Iowa. You're welcome to move to Nebraska. We're getting a little bit more progressive.
Well, it's possible you might be able to move to Ohio or Pennsylvania
or
Maine,
Minnesota, since they've recently, and this is
New
a
Mexico.
very arcane law. I mean, Lincoln, Nebraska has some arcane laws that just do not make any sense whatsoever. It is actually a legal requirement in the Haymarket and downtown areas for every eatery and tavern, i.e. place that serves food or beverage, to have a hitching post out front. It is a legal requirement. It is also perfectly legal and permissible with 24 hours advance notice to drive a herd of cattle down O Street during rush hour. That's still on the books. So it's basically one of those laws that probably should have been revoked or overturned or whatever a long time ago, and now it's stuck.
So, if
And
anyone
people are gonna have to fix
so in other words, you've just given ideas to people who might want to protest the new arena.
Of course, it's also illegal to spit on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And, well, I know politicians that spit on the sidewalk, so. Anywho.
Hey, we could have them arrested.
No, they're good politicians for the most part.
Anyway, okay.
Go ahead.
Iowa, a federal judge has come down on Iowa's, because of the lawsuit challenging Iowa's constitutional amendment banning same-sex marriage, a widower has joined the case and been afforded the same relief as the couple currently suing. David Michener's husband, William Herbert, died unexpectedly last week of natural causes, and federal judge Timothy Black has ruled that Ohio must issue a death certificate for Herbert that recognizes Michener as his husband and surviving spouse.
Okay. Are we in Iowa or Ohio?
Ohio.
You started out
I'm
Iowa,
sorry.
so I wanted to make sure.
I think I tied my tongue there somewhere.
Yeah, so we are in Ohio with this story.
Yes. So this means Ohio will have to accept a legal document recognizing a same-sex marriage because Herbert is supposed to be cremated this coming week, but the cremation cannot proceed without the death certificate. And since the death certificate recognizes his marriage to a man, the state has to recognize it. And Judge Timothy Black pointed out that the circumstances for Michener are no different than the original plaintiffs, John Arthur and Jim Obergefell. Arthur is dying of ALS, and a restraining order remains in effect such that when he passes, his death certificate must recognize his marriage to Obergefell. Black explained that not recognizing these couples' out-of-state marriages violates their constitutional rights. Specifically, the court finds that the plaintiff Michener has established a substantial likelihood of success on the merits of his claim that Ohio Code, and I cannot possibly pronounce all the legal symbols, I don't know how, of the Ohio Constitution violates state rights secured by the First and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution. The same-sex couples married in jurisdictions where the same-sex marriage is valid who seek to have their out-of-state marriage accepted as legal in Ohio are treated differently than opposite-sex couples who have been married in states where their circumstances allow marriage in that state but not in Ohio, i.e. because of consanguinity or age. On this record, there is insufficient evidence of a legitimate state interest to justify the singling out of same-sex marriage couples given the severe and irreparable harm it imposes on David Michener. You know, if this line of reasoning gets accepted, it's going to crop up in all the other states that still deny same-sex marriage, where a couple has moved to that state because of a job, or for that matter, people who decide to go the couple decides to go on a vacation to one of the states where it's legal, gets married, and comes home. This could make for some interesting legal issues the upcoming several years.
Definitely could, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it was predicted when SCOTUS made its decision late in, was that June? Wow, it's already been that long? That it could be anywhere from 5 to 15 years before same-sex marriage is recognized and legal in all 50 states, plus the principalities, properties, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. It could be a little bit faster than that. Hopefully it'll be 5 years or less. Maybe it'll get fast-tracked through the federal government, which would be a good thing. Of course, there's always the argument of, the states' rights, being able to have laws that are different, more strict or more lax than the federal laws, i.e. Colorado and Oregon with their legalized marijuana.
Speaking of marriage, same-sex marriage, two other interesting little things here in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
For 2 months now, an elected court clerk in the suburbs of Philadelphia has been issuing marriage licenses to same-sex couples, something they can't get anywhere else in the state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, which we've talked about recently.
Now a court is deciding whether the clerk has single-handedly added Pennsylvania to the growing list of states that formally sanction same-sex marriage, or whether he's been acting illegally and must stop.
Well, Pennsylvania is a state that explicitly bans same-sex marriage. It's not like New Mexico where it's not banned and it's not allowed. It's just not covered.
Yeah, this is going to add interesting to this is that you've got Governor Tom Corbett's health department against Bruce Haynes, the Montgomery County's Register of Wills, who issued the marriage licenses as part of his duty as clerk of the county orphans court.
Mm-hmm.
He began doing this in late July, shortly after the U.S. Supreme Court threw out portions of DOMA. Pennsylvania is the only northeastern state that has neither gay marriage nor civil unions, but the legality of the more than 150 such licenses remains an open question. This could be quite interesting.
Yes,
also
very interesting.
Now, I know it's been a while since we announced that Batwoman was lesbian. Direct Comics, DC Comics, Batwoman was made a lesbian.
Okay.
And the writers wanted to give her a wedding. They wanted her to marry her girlfriend, Maggie Sawyer, and started setting it up as counting down the issues before the happy couple could say, I do. However, an editorial decision by DC said, no, not gonna happen. No marriage of Batwoman. So, this is after DC got a GLAAD award for the comic, for its social media impact. So, but then again,
Glad might be taking that back.
Yeah. Well, in D.C.'s defense, they don't like marriage very much to begin with. I mean, they disappeared Superman and Lois Lane's marriage. Most superheroes in the DC universe who get married get killed off, at least temporarily. Green Arrow has been killed off after he married Black Canary. Hawkman and Hawkwoman have both died and been resurrected repeatedly because they've been married off and on for 5,000 years. Yes, I'm comic geeking out here.
Yeah. We've noticed.
Anyway, it's just one of the...
Geeks of the world unite.
Yeah. Hey, what can I say? It's part of my life.
Okay, what is our last story for the day?
One more marriage, shall we?
Okay.
Chihuahua becomes the fourth Mexican state to legalize same-sex marriage. The Mexican state of Chihuahua has joined Mexico City, Quintana Roo, and Oaxaca in allowing same-sex couples to marry. Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations.
Yep. So that's just kind of awesome and wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, they're probably having the same problem with recognizing those marriages outside of those 4 states as here in the United States.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. And one other short little one, and this is a sad one. Jared Olson, a 23-year-old man in Denver, will be needing facial reconstructive surgery after he was brutally beaten on Monday. He and his friends were leaving a hookah bar around 2 a.m. A man opened the passenger door of a car and started beating them up while a larger group of men lingered in the parking lot. Because Jared is gay, the police are wondering whether they need to pursue this as a hate crime or just something else. Making matters worse for Mr. Olson is that he does not have health insurance, and the facial reconstruction could cost upwards of $50,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before we let you go, I wanted to say thank you to our listeners worldwide. We have had listeners. We've got, of course, listeners in Nebraska and Kansas, and we have a friend in Norway, Michigan.
Darn.
Who is
awesome.
a regular listener, and I'm sure we have many other listeners other than that, but those are the ones that are using one particular listening app. Remember, you can hear us worldwide. You can hear KZUM worldwide at kzum.org. Listen to all the fabulous programming here, no matter where you're at in the world. Of course, if you want to catch Lavender Hill after it's aired, you can find us in the podcast stream on the same website. Find us on Facebook, find us on Google+, and every once in a while we've got something that crops up on YouTube as well. So we're going to let you go. I've got another piece of music for you. I guess it's kind of Phil's Music Day. But this is Doug Strom with his Just Say Goodbye. I thought that would be a little appropriate for us here. We're going to hand things over to Deb Anderson with The Women's Show here in just a few minutes. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
There's something on my mind. I really hate to do this, but I need some space and time. I need to figure out what happened and why. I said get to the point, just say goodbye. She said I'm sorry, it turned out this way. I wish that there was something more I could say. Said no need to justify, 'cause we both know it's been over, so just say goodbye. Say coming for miles. Could have heard the footsteps getting closer quite a while. This ain't been no big secret and no big surprise. Make it easy on yourself, just say goodbye. Say goodbye, just say goodbye. You don't have to worry, I'll be alright. Just say goodbye. I get to go and live my real life. Just say goodbye. Say goodbye. Just say goodbye, bye, bye. Say goodbye. Just say goodbye. Say goodbye. Just say goodbye. Just say goodbye. Just say goodbye. You don't have to worry, 'cause I'll be alright. Just say goodbye. If you don't say it, we'll be here all night. I'm gonna spread my wings. I'm gonna take flight. Just say goodbye. So many strings have been untied. Just say goodbye. Say goodbye. Just say goodbye, bye, bye. Say goodbye. Just say goodbye. Say goodbye. Just say goodbye.
This is KZUM Lincoln and KZUM-HD. Hey everyone, keep it tuned right here and give yourself a daily dose of joy. Guaranteed.
Broadcast of this program is made possible by the members of KZUM. Member support is critical to the success of the station. For more information on membership, call 402-474-5086.
KZUM welcomes comments or suggestions from our listeners. If you would like to share your thoughts with us, call the station during business hours at 402-474-5086, visit kzum.org, or write to us at KZUM-FM at 3534 South 48th Street, Suite 6, 68506.
The American Heart Association presents Mon and Polly, the Better Fat Sisters.
Mon, what's cooking? I'm famished.
Here you are, Polly, my latest culinary creation.
These fish fillets look wonderful. Mon, I usually don't eat fried food. All that fat, you know.
It's okay, they're grilled, and I use just a bit of a vegetable oil that's low in saturated fat.
Does that really matter?
It does. Oils like canola, corn, and olive mainly contain monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats, and they can help reduce bad cholesterol in your blood and lower your risk of heart disease and stroke.
Did Mother tell you this?
The American Heart Association told me. I found the recipe at heart.org/facethefats. Are we going to eat or just talk about food?
Look who's talking.
I'm Mon.
And I'm Polly.
We're the Better Fat Sisters. For more heart-healthy recipes, visit us at heart.org/facethefats.
Canola Info proudly supports the American Heart Association's Face the Fats campaign.
Hi, this is Tad Frazier. Get into the glide path for your weekend with TGI Films, Friday mornings 10 to noon with the best in women's folk rock and fun right here on your community radio station, KZUM.